Alright, what's good, y'all? It is your boy, King Natsuki, back at it again with another part of, well, a series I'm going to enjoy doing a lot. What if Naruto was born as a tailed beast? Part 2. Hope y'all like, sub, comment, comment, subscribe, share, tell everyone you know about it, please. And let's get on with the video. Where we last left off was that Naruto was going to the Chunin exams with his team, as it's a team of, well, 3 Cloud Ninja, as they are walking and eventually they get to the Leaf, as they're being peaceful and friendly people, as Naruto is wearing a hood that is covering everything except his eyes. You can't even see the bridge of his nose. That's how covered he is. As he's basically wearing a ginormous cloak that you can only see his eyes in. As everyone is wondering, like, are they here for the tuning exam? Like, they see the Cloud Ninjas. Naruto does have a cloud headband on. It's on top of all the covering he's wearing. As they see the cloud headbands, and they're like, "Oh, it's the Cloud Ninjas. They must be here for the Chunin exams." As oof. As Naruto then says, "Alright, let's get to this. Alright, let's go to where we're supposed to. I think we rented out a hotel. Did I cannot remember where we are supposed to go." As they're just wandering around the village, as they see 3 kids bullying a smaller child. As the 3 kids are getting, and the child isn't even a getting. As Naruto, seeing this, thinks this is a terrible, bad deed that should be put a stop to. As just as Kankuro is going to punch and beat up the kid, and Kankuro is just about to punch and beat up Konohamaru, Naruto blitzes out of thin air. As he then grabs Konohamaru's arms, as he says, "Please don't do that." However, Konohamaru can only see his eyes, as he just sees the black and yellow eyes. Well, he can't really, because Naruto's also wearing goggles. He's wearing glasses, and then on top of those are goggles. So he just sees this completely covered figure, and he says, "Don't do that, please." As Konohamaru is saying, "Why? This little pipsqueak bumped into me." As Naruto then said, "So? That is no way to treat someone. How would you like it if you bumped into me and I decided to attack you for no apparent reason? It's the wrong thing to do. Hasn't your parents taught you manners? And haven't your parents taught you the correct way how to live?" As They then say, that was uncalled for. As Naruto then says, what? As they then say that as Tamari then says that their mom died while giving birth to Gaara. As he then says, oh, uh, sorry for bringing back any painful memories. But seriously, don't hurt anyone here. I'm not even from here, I'm just here for the Chunin exams. You? As they say, we're not from here either, we're here for the Chunin exams as well. We are from the hidden sand village. We are from the sand village. You? As Naruto then says, Cloud, look, I'm really sorry. As Tamari then says, it's okay. As then, well, Mito is walking out, is basically running out of nowhere, saying, stop, don't hurt him, as she is out of breath. And Konohamaru just says, I already stopped hurting him, who are you? As she says, my name is Mito, and it is very important that you don't hurt him, or else you might start a war. As Konkuro is just like, huh? What do you mean I might start a war? Okay, I might want to check that out later. Weird. As Mito then says, he's the third Hokage's grandson. If you were to hurt him, you would literally push your village into a war. And no one wants that, right? As he would say, fine. But I've already stopped, thanks to this kid over here. As Mito would see what appeared to be a man someone covered in nothing but coverings and coverings and coverings with glasses, then goggles on. As we go into Mito's mindscape, as Kurama is just saying, now I'm pretty sure, unless he's hiding something about his physical appearance, that kid is probably from, like, somewhere where there is low oxygen and it's freezing cold. As Naruto then says, my name is Naruto of the Cloud. As then Kurama says, okay, he's definitely hiding something. Because it's not really that freezing there. I mean, seriously, we have people like Killer B wearing almost nothing. As you can see here, how do you even call that a shirt? You can't, can you? He isn't wearing proper gloves. He isn't even wearing proper gloves, or you can literally see his toes, so yeah, if people dress like that at the Cloud Village, then I'm pretty sure that it's not freezing there. As Kurama is actually interested in this kid, as he says, and in this person, as he says, I hope Mito gets a chance to fight him during the Chunin exams. That way I can see what it is that interests me about him. As we go into Gaara's mindscape, as the almighty fat Shikaku then says, that kid ain't normal. Watch your back, Gaara. That kid is not something to... These two kids are not something to take lightly. As Gaara then says, I see. So, as he then goes into the normal world outside of his mindscape as he says, um, my name is Gara of the Sand. I'm a Jinjuriki. You? As Mito then says, I am a Jinjuriki as well. As Gara then says, I thought I thought something was different about you, and you, sir? Are you a Jinjuriki? As Naruto then just says, I'm not a Jinjuriki. But you could say I have far more power than a Jinjuriki. Even in the Jinjuriki of the Nine Tails, which is one of the reasons why I'm here. Now, at this time, Mito has no clue what she's the Jinjuriki of, because the farthest she's gone is 8 Tails, and she thinks she must be the 8 Tails Jinjuriki if she went into an 8-tailed state. As when Kurama was sort of stomping and attacking her in the mindscape, she was barely conscious in the mindscape, so she could not see him, and even if she did, she forgot it. And no one told her, of course, not even Mitsuki. He just said, had that demon inside of you. You have a demon inside of you. As in, well, pretty much she would have killed him like Naruto did in canon, as we go back to the present. As Naruto is, Jen just says, so, see you later, as he goes with his team to a sort of hotel for the night, as it is the beginning of the Chunin exams. Now I want to skip the first part, don't judge me, I just don't really like the questions and the question asking part. But pretty much Naruto kind of cheats, but is not caught. He cheats and is not caught. As we go to the first real part of the test and of the exams, as it is the Forest of Death. Now Naruto's team is given a Heaven Scroll, as they need to collect Earth Scrolls. As Naruto then says, alright, I'm going to use 5% of my power in this area. I'm going to use a tiny bit of my power in this area because I don't want to die. Well, I mean, not like I really can. After all, Biju are immortal. But he's just thinking this as he's not saying it. Because he doesn't want people to know, he's a Biju, run! Yeah, he does not want that to happen. Of course, almost everyone in the Cloud Village knows of Naruto and what he is. And they're perfectly fine with it, because they kind of respect Biju and Jinjuriki in that village. Like, no cap. They worship Biju as divine beings instead of demons. And they kind of call them guardians and protectors, as Jinjuriki are considered heroes. Now we go back to the present. As the Cloud Village is, and as Naruto's team is basically wondering when is he gonna take off his, mask, and when is he gonna take off his, coverings. As Killer Bee is the Jonin, or I guess you could say sensei of this team, as he then says, Naruto, are you ready Now, don't use all of your power. Only use a bit of it, so you don't kill anyone. As he says, yes, Sensei. As Naruto and his team are going around getting some scrolls, as they see Orochimaru, and he's attacking Mito's team. As Mito is dodging, and is basically dodging and attacking Orochimaru at the same time, as Orochimaru then goes for Sasuke's neck, but the next thing he knows is a fist hits him in the face, as one of his teeth, instead of biting Sasuke, doesn't really bite Naruto, it just unsheaths a small amount of glove, just enough for Orochimaru to look at Naruto's skin, as he sees white skin with blue and black fur. That's kind of like fire, as he's just like, what in the hell? As says Naruto then says catatonic strike, as he then charges up chakra into his entire arm, as then he punches Orochimaru, as no one can see chakra in his arm because it's Biju chakra, and he's wearing all this covering. To the point where he looks fat. He's wearing that much covering to the point where he looks fat. As Orochimaru is blasted backwards through about 10 trees. As Naruto then says, thank you, and takes their scroll. And takes Mito's team's scroll. As he then jumps back to his team as they get to the tower first. As then they are told and when everyone gets there, they're told that there's too many people and they need to do a preliminary. Most of the fights go to canon, except Naruto beats anyone he fights. As pretty much, yeah. Naruto shreks everyone that he fights in canon, as Mito fights everyone that Sakura fights in canon. As, yes, instead of Sakura on his team, she gets Shikamaru on her team. So, yeah, Shikamaru fights everyone that Sasuke fights. But no, Sasuke fights everyone that Sasuke fights. Naruto fights everyone that he fights in canon. She fights everyone that... Pretty much, Shikamaru fights everyone that he fights in canon as well. As Mito fights everyone that Sakura fights in canon, and pretty much with canon Naruto strength. As the preliminaries are done, and then it's the big last part of the Chunin exams after a month of training. Raining. Now, while Naruto's team is training on their chakra and their physical strength, Naruto's training his mental strength. Because, he's stronger than the friggin' Jubi, also known as Shinju. I'm pretty sure he'd be able to one-shot... I'm pretty sure he would... And let me just tell you, the 10 Tails is 100 times stronger than the 9 Tails. So, I'm pretty sure that he'd be able to one-shot any Biju. Almost any Biju. Now, with other Biju, he might actually have to get into a fight with, such as the Ten Tails, but he would still win. Unless the Ten Tails and the other 9 joined forces and just should beat him. But that is not happening and never will. As we go back to the present, as Naruto is called to fight against Neji, instead of Hinata being called to fight Neji, as pretty much Neji is fighting ruthlessly, trying to attack Naruto. But truth be, Naruto is basically dodging everything like Beerus level of dodging. Without even thinking, he's just dodging. As he then says, blue fire style, holy fist. As his clothing is made fireproof, blue fireproof, as how do you think it is burning? As he then punches Neji in the chest. Now no one can see the blue fire because it's covered by the fireproof clothing. As Naruto repaired the tiny hole. As Neji is pretty much one-shot KO'd. As Sasuke is called out to fight Naruto, as Sasuke is using his... I'm gonna say he has a 1 to Moe. As he's using his Sharingan and detecting... pretty much trying to detect Naruto's speeds and, use his... I forget what the ability is called. Precision? No, pretty much it's the ability that makes everything slower so you can attack faster. As he is using his dojutsu, the Sharingan, to throw everything he has at Naruto. But truth be told, Naruto is just simply beating him in Beerus style dodging and taijutsu. As he then says, alright, this has gotten boring. As he then charges his palm with chakra and basically he open palm punches Naruto and punches Sasuke into a wall. As Naruto wins again. As we go to the last fight, pretty much the only one you've all been waiting to see, Naruto versus Gaara. Now, Gaara is pretty much using his sand and defense, which is extremely fast. However, Naruto then says, so you have a sand style defense, huh? Then can you defend from this? As Naruto's eyes then glow a sort of bright yellow to the point where you can kinda see them through the glasses and goggles. As his eyes then get white rings and six white tomoe around them. As he then starts blitzing. Basically, he's going at 8th gate speeds right now. 8th gate, my guy. Speeds right now as he's just blitzing him. As Gaara's sand defense can't even keep up, or can barely keep up. As half the time Naruto hits Gaara, as the other half of the time Gaara's sand defense is dodging, is blocking. As, well, Naruto is just too freaking fast. As Gaara then goes into his, let me go get it, his half Shikaku form, which you see right here. As Gaara is using wind release, because believe it or not, Shikaku's Kekkei is wind, is air. Don't ask me how. As he's using air and sand to sort of attack Naruto, as he's creating, well, small tornadoes, twisters, and using air pressure to sort of try and hurt Naruto. As Naruto is is dodging and blocking everything. As he then says, I saw a Hyuga do this once, and I was on a mission once and I saw Hyuga do this, so I'ma copy it. As he then says 8 trigrands, 64 palms, as his open palms are going extremely fast, and 32 palms hit Gaara, as Gaara just says, ah, and passes out. However, before Naruto can even enjoy his victory, Naruto is still in a fighting stance, as he knows what is coming. As Gaara goes into his Shukaku form, or Shukaku basically takes over. As Naruto then says, so you're the almighty Shukaku, huh? The sand spear? I'm the wind spirit? Or is it sand spirit? Finally, I'll have an actual opponent. As Naruto is dodging all of Shikaku's attacks, as Shikaku is, well, swiping and trying to attack Naruto. As everyone is just watching in amazement, as Naruto is standing and is what they are guessing using all of his power to stand against Tailed Beast. However, Naruto is barely even trying. As then Shikaku does something which no one was expecting, as one of his fingers grabs, just like a tiny part of his finger, grabs Naruto's cloak, as he then rips it, and as he then rips off a giant part of it, revealing his back. That's for later. As Naruto then says, God damn it. Well, you win. I guess I'll show you what I'm hiding. As Naruto takes off his goggles, revealing his black, yellow, and white eyes, which are basically like an inverted yellow and white version of a Sharingan with 6 Tomoe. As he then takes off the hood and all of it. As they see Naruto, and they're just like, is he the Two Tails Jinchuriki or something? As maybe he just got, permanently fused with the Two Tails. As Naruto then says, this is one tail of my power. As one of his tails is just swiping back and forth on the ground, kind of like a regular cat's tail. As he then says, this is as he then says, now I'm going to rush at you. Ha! As he is rushing at Shikaku, as he is now going Saitama level speeds. Max Saitama speeds when he's trying to catch a freaking mosquito or fly. He's just blitzing Shikaku. Shikaku can't even keep up with him, and it looks like he's freaking teleporting. As Naruto then says, as cataclysmic, cataclysmic fireball, as he his tail begins spinning around, and in the middle of it, or the middle where it's spinning, you know how you can kind of spin a rope, and there's kind of like a area in the middle of it. Yeah, basically imagine a giant blue and black fireball forming out of the right there. As he then adds a whole bunch of chakra to it, as then the blue and black fireball turns into a blue and blue, white, and yellow and black fireball. As he then fires it at Shikaku, as Shikaku, being made of sand, is melting, or well, turning to glass, as he says, "What? What in the?" As Naruto then says, "Cataclysmic kick," as he does a Deku style kick, Deku versus Overhaul style kick, as he just kicks him as he just kicks Shikaku in his fat belly. As he then begins launching a barrage of punches, and eventually knocks Shikaku out, turning him back into Gaara. As he then says, "Did I win?" As the proctor then says, yes. As then the attack begins. What I mean by attack, the sand and Orochimaru's attack. As Orochimaru tries to attack the third Hokage, as Naruto then says, "Oh no you don't," as he then says, "Infernal chains," as his tail then turns into a giant arm, and into a bunch of chains. And as his tail then turns into a giant blue fiery chain, as it wraps around Orochimaru completely. As he then says, "Get over here," and as he then does a scorpion style pull and grabs and basically yanks Orochimaru near him, and then he's just swinging him back and forth around the walls and ground. As Naruto then says, "Infernal ceiling," as he then seals, Orochimaru's hands, as Orochimaru says, "I can't do taijutsu, curse you!" As he took away Orochimaru's use of taijutsu, as he then says, infernal ceiling, and seals Orochimaru's feet. As Orochimaru now, he can't kick or fight. And basically, he cannot fight. As Orochimaru says, "Damn you, damn you, damn you!" As he then crawls away. As the others are as the attack is quickly stopped up by Naruto. As then, there's one last fight. As they pretty much grab their bearings and are like, "Okay, Jesus Willikers." As I'ma say, Naruto was fighting Gaara, Mito was out in the bathroom. Yes, the entire time. So she could not see what Naruto looked like, and neither could Kurama. As Naruto then just said, reformation jutsu, as and he basically used a jutsu to reform his clothes. As then he said, phew, much better. Now let's get on to the final fight, shall we? As everyone was just stunned, including the third Hokage. As he said, if he beats Mito, then I'll have to get him, then I will have him sealed inside of, well, the strongest person here. Maybe that I'll seal him inside of the Uchiha Sasuke. As Mito gets out, as she then thinks, alright, time to fight. And Kurama is just like, let's see what this guy has. As Naruto is in his full clothes, so they can't see anything. As Naruto actually wants to test Mito's strength, and then progressively get stronger and stronger to anger Mito, as he wants to see what will happen. Because he knows that Mito is a Jinchuriki, but he does not know which Jinchuriki. As he and Mito then begin fighting. As Naruto is using his godly taijutsu, and his godly ultimate taijutsu that could make, and that is officially making every single person, including Might Guy, jealous. As he is just hiding with his taijutsu, but not really trying to harm Mito, as he's getting progressively harder and harder with his taijutsu, and faster and dodging more and more attacks. As Mito is like, okay, that's it. As she is getting angry that he keeps dodging. As red chakra begins to swell around her, as she begins swiping and getting faster and trying to attack Naruto. However, Naruto is just easily dodging more and more. He keeps dodging all of her attacks. As then he sees Mito's eyes turn from blue to the red Kurama eyes. As Kurama then is in control for a bit. As he then says, alright, let's see what you've got. As he is trying to harm, and as he's trying to attack Naruto, but Naruto is just unconsciously, without thinking, dodging. It's like he's friggin' Ultra Instinct or something. As he then says, alright, this has gotten a bit annoying, as he then summons a tail made of chakra and as he then makes a tail out of chakra, and as he uses his tail to grab Mito, as he turns it into a chain and begins swinging her around the entire place. As Naruto then says Kage Bunshin, or is it Kage Bunshin? As he uses the freaking multi-shadow clone and creates 10 of himself, just bodying Kurama in his four-tailed state, and Mito in her four-tailed state. As Kurama then says, I wonder if, and as the real Naruto has his tail wrapped around Mito, Kurama then swipes at the tail and actually sort of dispels the tail, or cuts it badly. As the tail then fades away and then reappears on Naruto's back as he says, oh, you know you're going to have a new You know I wasn't really planning on this, but I'm gonna give you a privilege. You and whoever is inside of you. I'm going to give you the privilege of seeing my full power. As Naruto then morphs into this, as Kurama is just like, holy, that isn't a Jinchuriki, that's a Biju, that is a Biju. And then he just says, wait, how many tails? And then he's counting and says, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 9, 10, 11. He then says, wait, 11? As he then remembers that he has a wife with 2 tails, and he has 9 tails. As Kurama, basically, it's like he's trying to connect 2 wires, as then something finally clicks in his brain. As he then says, wait a minute, 2 plus 9 is 11. Oh no. As he then says in the mindscape, this is my son. Oh poop. As Naruto then begins glowing and says, now you will get to meet one of my strong chakra modes. As Naruto basically turns into this, except imagine 2 more tails. Because yes, I know this is Kurama's Madara Susanoo mode, but imagine 2 extra tails. As Naruto begins swiping, and as Naruto begins bodying Mito, as Kurama then says, alright, this is now officially not fair. As Kurama then goes into his 8-tail state, and is in his 6-tail state, as Naruto can see the fox bones and the similarities to a fox, as he says, oh, so this is Dad, huh? In that case, I won't hurt. In that case, I won't go full power on him. As Naruto then begins powering down, as he then goes into his humanoid form, as he then says, because of the beast you hold inside of you, I am not going to harm you. As Kurama then says, shite, he knows. Basically, he's in the mindscape and he says, shit, he knows. As Naruto then says, but consider this a bit of a payback for not being there. As he then winds his fist back, as it then turns into a ginormous purple and black cat fist. Yes, you heard me right, purple and black. As pretty much Naruto will be able to turn into something like this, as this is a giant humanoid 11-tailed purple fox cat fusion. Now the purple, you might be asking, well, think about it. Matatabi's chakra is blue, Kurama's chakra is red. Well, you get it if you mix red and blue. Purple. Naruto is a mix of Matatabe and Kurama. Thus, in his final form, he will look like this. As he's only using a small amount of his final form powers, as he then just adds into his palm and into his right fist, as he then punches Kurama, as he then punches Mito and sends her flying into a wall. As Mito then poofs into her human form, as all the chakra then dissipates, as she's knocked out, and Kurama in the mindscape then says, I think I did. I think I deserve that for not being there. I think that's what he's. I think that was a sort of, you deserve this for not being there, air attack. Well, oof. As Naruto then, as they then say, winner is Naruto. As Naruto then says, yeah. As his chakra settles down and turns it back into normal blue and black fur. As he says, perfect. I just showed up my dad. As then he's about to leave the arena, as then out of nowhere, a bunch of metal chains then wrap around his arms and legs and neck and waist and his tail. As he's just like, huh? What's this for? As the cloud and as his cloud team is just like, huh? What are they doing to Naruto? This isn't a part of the Chunin exams. As, well, Killer B then says, I know. I'm gonna have to stop them. I'm gonna have to free him if they do anything else. As they then start coursing the chains with chakra, as it begins electrocuting in a way. As it then, in a way, begins electrocuting Naruto. As he then says, ah! What is that for? Ah! What is that for? What is this for? I did nothing wrong. As then he sees a whole bunch of people as he then sees a whole bunch of people beginning to do hand signs. As he then just says, no, you wouldn't dare. As he then says, I will, and as the third Hokage then says, I would dare. You are a powerful, you would be a powerful weapon for the village. As Naruto is hurt by this, and as he is just in a emotionless state, he says, weapon? Weapon? You dare. Weapon? I'm a weapon? As Naruto's chakra then begins flaring like crazy, as he goes into his final state, as he then says, weapon! And begins breaking the chains, as he then says, I am a living creature, just like all Biju. If Biju and Jinchuriki, if Biju and human do not befriend each other, then the Biju should be taken out of that Jinchuriki, just as my father is inside of that girl. He didn't even want to attack this village, but he was forced to. And so, I am going to show you what happens when you call me and my family weapons. As Naruto then says, you get killed. As Naruto then says, as Naruto begins making a Biju bomb, except it's black, white, blue, and purple. then says, as primordial Biju bomb, and primordial Biju bomb, or I think it's Biju Dama, as he throws it down, as everything around him begins just crumbling and disintegrating, as as then hundreds of chains come out of nowhere, as a whole bunch of people have chains wrapped around him, as then his attack stops, as they then say, seal him, and seal the beast now, as they begin doing seals, 8 tetragrams, Reaper Death, as they're using all types of seals. On Naruto, he's just like, you can't seal me, as they're using advanced, high-tech, godlike, and as they're using their strongest seals, as they're all about to begin going to seal Naruto. As then Killer B, as then out of nowhere, well, Killer B flies out of nowhere, as, well, at extremely fast speeds, he breaks all of the chains and says, come on, Naruto, calm down, we need to get you out of here. As Naruto then folds back down to his humanoid form, as he says, yes. As then Naruto begins glowing, as he says, I'm leaving right now, Leaf Village, but know this, one day I will return for my father, that you have taken from me, as then I will end you all. As Naruto then pretty much runs away with his team, as they basically run back to the Cloud Village, as they then say, what happened? As A says, what happened? As Killer B then says, brother, the Leaf Village, they tried Naruto, you see, he won the Chunin exams, however, his cloak and his coverings were ripped apart and torn off. As they began chaining Naruto and about to seal, and they were about to try and seal him. However, I broke the chains and ran away here. As the Raikage or A then says, and this is one of the reasons why I hate Leaf. As he then sends and says, why don't we rally against? As then Killer B says, I hate Leaf too, brother. As then Naruto says, why don't we rally against those fools? Huh? We could rally against them. And then I could get my father back. As we could train that Jinchuriki to be nice to her Biju and to my father. As the girl would then be able to befriend him, right? And then my father would be able to come out and talk to me, train me, teach me. against them. As pretty much A then begins sending out messengers and messaging animals, like messaging birds, as he then ties a message to their legs and says, and he just sends these birds out to the other leaders of the villages that are not, to any village that is not Konoha. As the birds go to all the lands, as they get to the and as they get to the Mist Village, which is not the Bloody Mist anymore, as Yagura has been defeated due to, well, a mission that Naruto went on, as Naruto basically, before he went to Chunin exams, one-shot Yagura. But he did not kill him, he just sort of got him back in his right mindset, as Yagura was being controlled. As they then pretty much, Yagura is now a leader, and he has a sort of debt, and he's kind of in debt to the Cloud Village. As Yago, and as a pigeon, and as basically a bird, like a raven or crow, reaches Yagura's office, as he sees, and as he reads the message, and he then sends one that says, "My village, the Mist, will aid you in battle, as we do owe you for stopping a war against ourselves." As he then, and as we go to the Land of Waves, or I guess it's the Rain Village, or no, it's the waterfall. As pretty much the Rain Village, or the, what's it called? What is the nation called? I think it's the Waterfall Nation, or the Wave Nation. As pretty much they get a letter asking to help fight, as they accept. As same thing for the stone, they of course accept. As then basically 4 nations are against the Fire Nation. As the Fire Lord then stops giving them, and then basically says, "Look what you've done. Now we're in a giant war. Or because you were too greedy, and you wanted the 11 tails for your village. I know that it's extremely powerful, but it is a cloud ninja, meaning he is cloud property, meaning if you anger him, you anger the Raikage, meaning you anger all the other lords, meaning that you get yourself your own war. Therefore, I'm not supplying you with any troops or anything, and such as that." As Naruto begins, and as Konoha soon becomes a very poor place. Well, not poor yet, as they are using as they are pretty much draining the Namikaze and Uzumaki funds dry. As then as then Kurama actually gets to a talk with Mito, as he then says, sorry about trying to kill you, you know, earlier. Listen, my son is rallying an entire war against this whole village, meaning that if we do not get out of here, we might die. As you are the last of two clans, meaning that you get all of the clan money. And that's exactly what this entire village is using to fund their war effort. You take away the money, you take away the war effort, meaning that my son wins, and, well, I'll take things much easier on you, and will be able to join their village, which I hear that the cloud treats Jinchuriki quite well. As pretty much. Oh, by the way, also the sand is in there because, they kind of defeated their beast. So, yeah. Well, the Kazekage is impressed that someone actually managed to beat him. The Kazekage, of course, being Gaara, because Orochimaru killed the Kazekage. Okay, so, yeah. As Gaara says he'll aid them. As, yeah, there's an entire village, as there's 4 nations just on, as the 4 great villages are about to obliterate Konoha. As he then says, if you want to live, if I suggest that we escape this village, take the money that is rightfully yours, and go to the cloud. Understood? And she then says, okay. As she then pretty much Kurama kind of fist bumps her to give her some chakra, just so they can pull off the, well, I guess you could say, as they call it, a robbery, but in reality it's a retrieval of possessions. As Mito then gets KCM, or the first chakra cloak, as she and Kurama bust in to retrieve their money, and to retrieve Mito's money. As Mito busts in and takes all the Namikaze and what is it? Namikaze and Uzumaki funds, as she busts in, as she pretty much takes the funds and leaves the village. As, well, we go back to Naruto, who has his entire alliance army just surrounding Konoha, as they're like, alright, the one problem will be the Nine Tails. As then he hears, as then they see Mito running away, as then they're like, oh, it appears that that the Jinchuriki has abandoned Konoha. Perfect. As they then say, and as pretty much they began saying, without the Jinchuriki, and as Killer Bay then says, without their Jinchuriki, they're weaker than ever before, making them the weakest of the five. As Naruto then says, perfect. Charge! Charge! As Mito just sees the entire army marching forward. As she says, why don't we join them? As she has, as you might be wondering, how did she have all the money? She has storage scrolls on her waist. As she says, wait for me. As Kurama then join, and as Kurama and Mito join the battle. As Mito then summons full-grown Kurama, as he then says, time to finish what I started. As he begins just stomping everything and the entire, as they're just marching towards the village. As that is where I'm going to end this off with. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Cliffhanger no Jutsu. Hope y'all enjoyed it. See y'all later. Bye.